The string quartet fell silent in the middle of the beat. My father Werner tapped his champagne glass and silenced the 100 guests who had gathered in the well-kept garden of the villa. I was expecting a toast, maybe even a hesitant acknowledgement of my recent promotion. Instead, he handed me a heavy leather-bound folder. It was not a gift. I opened it and found a single document. He announced a detailed list, an invoice, and inconveniences. His voice penetrated to the last row. "You were a bad investment, Sarah. Consider this as limiting our losses." The silence that followed was not peaceful. She was suffocating. My mother Claudia did not gasp. She did not rush to snatch the bill from Werner's hand or apologize to the guests for this cruel theater. She simply smoothed her silk dress, took the microphone from Werner, and handed it to my sister Bianca. This transfer of power told me everything I needed to know. Bianca stepped forward and created a visual dissonance that was impossible to miss. She was wearing a strapless designer dress that shimmered in the garden light. Something that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Her hair was professionally styled. Her skin was radiant with a wellness. On the other hand, I was still wearing my work blazer and a pair of cloth pants, as I had come straight from the server room to be here on time. The contrast was no coincidence. He was a statement. She was the investment. I was the cost factor. "The keys, Sarah," Bianca said, her voice amplified by the speakers. She didn't whisper it, she staged it. She held out a manicured hand, palm up, waiting. "Dad transferred the vehicle letter to the winner of the family this morning. You know, someone who actually appreciates the brand." I looked at her hand, then at the car key in my own. It was not a luxury vehicle. It was a 5-year-old limousine that I used to commute to the city to the job that was paying my rent and bills. But technically, Werner's name was still on the letter since I was 21. I had never thought of changing it because I thought we were a family. I thought property was a formality, not a weapon. I put the key in the palm of your hand. The metal felt cold, but Bianca's smile was colder. She closed her fingers around it, as if she was crushing an insect. Finally, she breathed into the microphone. A sound, half laughing, half sighing. Someone had to take out the garbage, but they weren't ready yet. The dismantling of my personal life was only the first act. Werner gesticulated in the direction of the back rows and called someone forward. My stomach turned around when I saw Jens, my department manager, step into the circle of light. Jens was a weak man, the kind of middle manager who survived by agreeing with everyone who had the most money in the room. He looked at his shoes, then at Werner, then finally at me. He looked scared, but also obedient. "Jens," Werner said. His voice boomed with false conviviality. "Why don't you share the news with everyone? We believe in transparency here." Jens cleared his throat. He did not take the microphone. He didn't have to. The silence in the garden was absolute. "Sarah," he said, his voice breaking. "Based on your parents' character references this week and the financial liabilities they have revealed, the company considers you a security risk." He paused, swallowed hard. "You are released with effect from Monday. Please don't come to the office anymore. We will send you your personal belongings by post." The air came out of my lungs. This wasn't just a bad garden party. This was not a family quarrel. This was a calculated strategic destruction of my existence. They hadn't just decided to stop loving me. They had decided to wipe me out. They wanted to see me unemployed, immobile, and in debt. They wanted me to have nothing so that I would have to crawl back to them for everything. I looked around the garden. The guests were statues in expensive suits. No one moved. No one said anything. They witnessed a social execution, and they were too polite, or perhaps too intrigued to intervene. I was standing alone on the well-groomed lawn, the bill heavy in my pocket, the emptiness in my jacket pocket, where my car key had been, was burning. I looked at Werner, who was beaming. I looked at Claudia, who was examining her nails. I looked at Bianca, who was circling my keychain on her finger. And at that moment, the shock began to crack. He did not break into sadness. He broke into something much harder, much sharper. He broke into clarity. I wasn't crying. I didn't scream. I didn't give them enough of a scene. Emotions are just erroneous data in an audit. I deleted them. I looked Werner straight in the eye, then I put the leather folder in my bag. I turned around and walked out of the garden without saying a single syllable. The gravel crunched under my sensible shoes, the only sound in the suffocating silence. The way home was 5 kilometers long. He gave me time to think. He gave me time to feel the blisters forming on my heels and the cold reality settling in my chest. By the time I unlocked the door to my apartment, the sun had set and the air inside smelled of stale coffee and shock. I didn't turn on the light. I didn't have to see the empty room to know how alone I was. I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. I didn't go to a job market. I did not update my resume. I opened a terminal window. The black screen and the flashing green cursor were the only things that felt honest. I am a cybersecurity analyst. My job is to find vulnerabilities, track down vulnerabilities, understand how systems fail, and my family was a failing system. While typing in the command lines and initializing search logs, which I usually reserve for company audits, I allowed myself to think about the bill. 250,000 euros. It was a stunning number, precise and cruel. But as I stared at the blinking cursor, I realized something. It wasn't just a bill, it was a confession. Healthy love is not a cash book. One does not track the cost of diapers or the price of school lunch, unless you consider your child as an asset that does not yield a return. This is the trap of transactional love. Narcissistic parents do not raise children. They make investments. And if the investment does not bring the desired return, if the child does not marry rich or becomes famous or throws her own gloss back on you, then liquidate. They limit the loss. The bill was not about money, it was about possessions. They told me that my existence had a price tag, and since I did not pay dividends in the form of social status, I was in the should. They wanted to forcibly stretch my life. The code on my screen stopped scrolling. The search was running in the background. My phone vibrated on the tabletop like a trapped insect, buzzing with the aftershocks of her little garden party performance. I didn't take it off. I just watched the notifications go through the lock screen and catalog the data. First came the gaslighting, a text message from Claudia. We just wanted you to pull the reality, Sarah. Sometimes love looks like a hard lesson. Call us when you are ready to grow up. Then came the performance Kununst, a notification from Instagram. Bianca had posted a photo, a selfie in the driver's seat of my limousine, of her new car. She was sulking, the light perfectly adjusted to catch the glitter of a tear I knew she had generated on command. The caption read, "So sad when family becomes toxic. Sometimes you have to cut people off to protect your peace. Healing boundaries." Finally, the threat. An email from Werner. Subject repayment schedule. The content was short. If you do not set up a payment plan for the Rulo 250,000 by Friday, we will take legal action for benefit fraud. Don't test me. They expected me to read this through a veil of tears. They expected me to type panicky, apologetic paragraphs, begging for forgiveness and promising to pay everything, only to be accepted back into the bosom of the family. They were betting on the version of me they had constructed in their minds, the weak, dependent daughter. But they had forgotten how I earned my living. I don't do drama, I do threat analysis and security. I wiped the notifications away and archived them in a secure folder. I didn't block them. You never block a source of information, you just mute the noise. I turned back to my laptop. While the forensic search was boiling in their finances, I had another fire to put out. My career. Jens, my former boss, was a weak link in the corporate chain. He had fired me based on hearsay to impress a man in a tuxedo. A tactical mistake. I didn't call Jens. You don't negotiate with a compromised node. Man him. I opened my secured contact list and found the extension of the area manager. Last year, when a ransomware attack threatened to encrypt the entire database in Frankfurt, it was I who found the gap. It was me who stayed awake for 72 hours to patch the system while Jens coordinated from the golf course. She knew my name. She knew my worth. I chose. She answered the second ring. Sarah. Her voice was sharp, surprised. It's late. Is the server down? The network is safe, I said in a flat, professional voice, but my employment status is not. I have to inform you that I was terminated by Jens 2 hours ago. Quit? On what basis? He attended a private party of my parents. Due to a personal dispute over family finances, he decided that I was a security risk. There was no HR present, no performance evaluation, no exit interview, just a public dismissal in front of 100 party guests. Silence on the line. It was the silence of a woman who understood the risk of liability. He fired a senior analyst at a cocktail party based on personal gossip. Yes, I'm calling to clarify whether this is the new company protocol for personnel management. Because, if so, I need to know where to send my ID. Give me 5 minutes, she said. The line went dead. I wasn't staring at the phone. I went to the kitchen and made coffee black. I returned to the desk. 4 minutes and 30 seconds later, my companies were peeing email. An automated notification from the system restored access. Then a second email, this time from the head of the department. Jens has been released with immediate effect until a formal investigation into professional misconduct is completed. Your cancellation is void. You are reinstated with immediate effect, with 10% salary adjustment for the bureaucratic error. Take Monday off. We'll talk Tuesday. I took a sip of coffee. He was bitter, but he tasted of victory. The first pillar of their control had just crumbled. They thought they had taken away my livelihood. Instead, they had just given me a raise and removed the only incompetent manager standing in my way. I looked back at the terminal window. The loading beam hit 100%. The data from my parents' financial history was ready. I let my ankles crack and leaned forward. If you thought losing my job would break me, you had no idea what would happen if I looked into your bank accounts. The table on my screen was a map of moral decay. I wasn't looking at a family budget, I was looking at a crime scene. I started with the car, the limousine that Bianca had so hemically reclaimed in the garden. Werner had claimed that he had transferred the vehicle registration document because it belonged to him. He lied. I tracked the cash flow of the original purchase amount through the bank documents that I had just deciphered. The purchase price did not come from Werner's private account, it came from an account that ran on Grandma Erna Trowand, my grandmother. She had died 10 years ago, and I was told that she had left nothing but old jewelry. But here it was, an escrow account set up in my name, intended for payment on my 21st birthday. The balance should have been considerable. He was zero. Werner had not bought this car for me out of kindness of heart. He had bought it with my money, put his name in the letter, and then lent it to me to keep me grateful. And now he had given my stolen property to Bianca as a reward for her loyalty. But this was only petty crime. The real anomaly was in the investment folder. My parents had always posed as savvy investors and managed portfolios for family members who were not financially literate. I called up the documents for Uncle Kevin and Aunt Michelle. They were good people, trusting people. For 5 years, they had transferred 5,000 euros to Werner every month for an alleged high-tech fund. I followed the money trail. The transfers were received into Werner's holding account, were stored there for 24 hours and were then forwarded. Not to a tech fund, not to an exchange. They were transferred to an account that ran under Bianca Lifestyle GmbH, a letterbox company. I clicked on the details. It was an account that was used to pay off credit cards, to keep luxury cars quiet, and to finance influencer trips to Tulum and Paris. Uncle Kevin did not invest in the future. He financed Bianca's wardrobe. I leaned back. The glow of the monitor preserved the dark apartment. That changed everything. This was not just bad parenting, this was a crime. But the most damning piece of evidence was not the money itself. It was the signatures. On every payout receipt from the letterbox company, right next to Werner's jagged scribble, a curved, practiced signature of Bianca was emblazoned. This brings us to the guilt of the followers. The golden child often pleads ignorance. They claim that they are just passive recipients of parental generosity. They say, I didn't know where the money came from, I just spent it. It's a convenient lie, but willful ignorance is not innocence. It's a strategy. Bianca was not a spectator. The digital logs proved that she was an accomplice who authorized the theft of our aunt and uncle's money to finance her lifestyle. I backed up the files on an encrypted drive. The bill they handed me in the garden had been theater, but these dates were a warrant for my arrest. I attached a single PDF with the name Forensic Report Financial Fraud Philly PDF to an email. The recipients, my parents Bianca, and the victims, Uncle Kevin and Aunt Michelle. No message was needed. I pressed send. Then I immediately disconnected my phone and my router from the network. Silence scares narcissists. By refusing to interact, I deprived them of the reaction they were after. I slept soundly while they panicked. When I went back online the next morning, my phone was flooded with threats, but a mailbox message stood out. She was from Uncle Kevin. Instead of anger, I heard relief. "You didn't destroy the family, Sarah," he said. "You just turned on the light. I'll call my lawyer." Bridal. Days later, my father was banging on my apartment door. He looked broken, begging through the wood. I should call the email back, claim that it was a mistake to save him from prison. "We have it for the family inheritance," he pleaded.